Thank you all for being here today. Once again, at the wonderful Landmark Hotel. I'm Kevin Carr, Director of Protection Review, and along with Roger and Joe, we are your hosts today. Like many of you, we were following the budget yesterday, listening to lots of big numbers and small numbers, and more big numbers and more small numbers. And when someone said, "What about tax cuts?" she said, "Bingo." She said, "Bingo." It's been a busy year for the life and health insurance industry, with sales up a bit or down a bit, depending where you look. There is talk of, and indeed use of, AI left, right, and centre. And of course, we're all waiting for the FCA market review to land. If you were at the Excellent Cover Summit a few weeks ago, you'll have heard a panel at the end of the day discussing their hopes and predictions for the FCA market review. And what you would have heard, they pretty much said, not a lot, basically. We had a range of different parts of the industry represented on the panel, and they kind of said, we don't expect much to change. Maybe they're right. Personally, I would expect a raising of bars around certain practices, including status and disclosures, and in particular, around switching policies. But as long as the rules are the same for everyone, I think this will be good for customers. And if it's good for customers, it should be good for us. Whatever the recommendations may be, I hope they ultimately result in more people being protected. One area we are told desperately needs to improve, again, is insurer service levels around underwriting and claims. I know sometimes insurers tend to glaze over and put this feedback in the moany advice box. But numerous advisor firms, large and small, tell us they have stopped using the worst offenders, with talks of 40-day backlogs. It frustrates me, as it does many of you, when we let our customers down. And when you hear the feedback from advisors, in person and in specific detail, about the impact on their business, their clients, their time, their stress levels, their profitability, it resonates so much louder than a customer service survey. Compliance directors in the room, please take note. Cheapest is not necessarily best. And that's just one reason why. So, if our industry didn't already exist, and we were building it today, in this room, for the first time, I suspect many things would look a bit different. We'd have a blank canvas with no legacy systems, no list of first mover disadvantages, greater investment in technology, different pricing, greater inclusivity, and quite possibly better products. Sometimes when our customers have told the truth and paid premiums in good faith, the outcome when something serious happens to them is that they bought the wrong product. What they should have bought is insert one of the following: life cover, critical illness, income protection, private insurance, redundancy cover, accident cover. But they didn't. They bought a different one from that list. We are very sorry, but the awful thing that's just happened to you is not covered by the policy you chose to buy. Does this happen with other types of insurance? We wondered. Sure. Some policies will always be more comprehensive than others, including third party and fully comp, for example. But drivers are not expected to choose between serious crash cover, accidental crash cover, critical crash cover, deathly crash cover, or maybe even private crash cover. Has an insurable event happened to that person? Yes. Is there a policy that covers it? Yes. Did they buy that one? No. Whose fault is that? Ours? Theirs? Perhaps both? Our industry could have paid out if the customer had bought what turned out to be the most suitable policy, which of course needs a crystal ball to an extent, but that's the way we have made the industry, not them. And this is also one of the biggest reasons why we shouldn't ever just discuss life insurance. Compliance directors in the room, please take note. But despite these challenges, the protection industry, as we've said recently, remains a robust outlier. It is rarely at the core of government planning or business or family discussions. But as many have said, whether it's pandemics, financial crashes, inflation, global conflicts, AI, or something else, not much tends to change in the protection industry. It carries on largely as it did the day before, with a similar number of policies being sold in a similar way. Some argue this leads to lazy behaviours and a lack of innovation. Companies doing the same thing in the same way because they've always worked that way. Introducing technology that replaces a human but doesn't change the process, doesn't change the outcome. It's just used to be done by a human and now it's done digitally. Occasionally, someone tries very hard to disrupt our market. But is it actually disruptable? On one hand, many parts of the process are human or paper-based. And if we did a survey of this room, or frankly anybody in the country, and said, can you disrupt the life insurance industry? I think they'd all scream yes in capital letters. But someone said to me recently, and I actually forget who it was, but so if it was you, come and find me. They said, you can't Uber protection. I work in PR, as many of you know, and I thought, boy, that's a headline, isn't it? That's a tagline. You can't Uber protection. Many firms have tried, and some are no longer here to tell the tale. The irony, perhaps, is that protection exists to provide peace of mind, yet the complexity of products and processes often creates anxiety. When a claim is declined, it's not just a financial blow, it's an emotional one, and one that impacts far more than just that person. Likewise, loadings and exclusions, because there are many situations where a doctor or a consultant says something is fine, but underwriters don't agree. They see it differently. At the same time, however, we have low premiums, increasingly flexible products, many examples of innovation, very high claims payout rates, low complaint volumes, and some of the most altruistic and dedicated people I've ever met. Many of them are in this room right now, and a few others will be here tonight. So we carry on doing what we do. We carry on working harder and smarter wherever we can, because protection is a resilient outlier, and despite its challenges, it's worth betting on. So let's see how the year has gone so far. What stands out to me on this slide from our partners at iPipeline is the top right chart, which shows things up a bit or down a bit, until you see that right-hand column, which is whole of life, up 81% year on year. If you want this slide, come and ask us, or come and find Nick Jones. We'll be talking more about the budget and whole of life after lunch. Let's begin session one. Are we disruptable? Well, unfortunately, conferences are disruptable. Unfortunately, our first speaker this morning is unwell. We only found out at 7 a.m. this morning, and he's not able to be here. So if necessary, we'll extend the coffee break, but I think we're running pretty much to time. We'll come back to Alex shortly. The definition of disruption is something that can be interrupted, broken apart, or disturbed. And I'd like us to keep that in mind this morning. Interrupted, broken apart, disturbed. Is our industry capable? That is what we're asking. As I said earlier, someone said to me, you can't Uber protection. Were they right? Surely we must be disruptable because so many things are still done the way they used to be, a myriad of human and paper processes. Then again, maybe things are done the way they are for good reason. There are so many things that could be better, but so many barriers to change. Lots of little things are changing, but when an industry is properly disrupted, it's the big things that change. If Alex were here, he was due to talk about two things. Firstly, the challenges of disrupting an industry. At 21, he founded Unilad and Lad Bible, which reached over 100 million subscribers. But he was also going to talk about the challenges of not disrupting industries, the challenges of the status quo, the challenges of just staying the same in a world that is changing ever more quickly every day.